Jamie, it's the 18th of December at the World Intellectual Property Organization. What happened today?
They just voted to have a diplomatic conference in Morocco in June 2013, and they'll adopt a treaty for persons that have disabilities. It'll be a treaty on copyright exceptions.
And what will that mean for the lives of blind, visually impaired, and other persons with reading disabilities?
Right now, the copyright system has this tradition where limitations and exceptions to copyright are thought of as national but not international in nature. And the problem for blind people is that it's expensive to create a work that's accessible to blind people. And very few works are actually produced in these accessible formats. But even worse, they don't share the works across borders. So when the United States makes an accessible copy of a work, it doesn't share it with a blind person in Canada, it doesn't share it with a blind person in New Zealand or Kenya or India or any country where a person can read English. And the same is true with other countries. And so we have a very inefficient system. And given the fact you already start with limited resources, it means that there's very few works that are available for people with disabilities, particularly people that live in developing countries. I think the World Health Organization says around 90% of the people that have visual impairments live in developing countries. And they often are in that situation because of poor health care. And that's where you really have the fewest works available. So this will be a really big change for people who live in developing countries, and particularly people that share a common language like English or Spanish.
Just before we close, how do you feel about what happened today, Jamie, and how did we get here?
Well, we came in here, the United States and the European Union have been the biggest problems. About a month ago, the European Union finally decided to support a treaty. Actually, even as of yesterday, the United States was hedging on whether or not they could go and support a treaty. They were trying to get text that was going to reduce be more ambiguous about what the final outcome was going to be. I think it was ridiculous for the Obama administration to be the very last country on earth that basically agreed to that we're negotiating a treaty. And it's going to be tough in February, because in February there'll be a big attempt by the Americans and the European Union to load up the treaty with all kinds of restrictive provisions which will limit its usefulness. So I think that this is we've passed a really major hurdle, which is the political decision to have a diplomatic conference, but we really haven't closed out all the important issues in the text yet.
Thanks, Jamie. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, I think there's been hundreds of people who have been involved in this decision. I hope that they're all in Morocco for the diplomatic conference. But the last close in this, the last 6 months, is going to be really intense. And I think it's important that people really focus and fight for every comma and every verb and every word that they need to make this treaty as useful as possible. There've already been too many concessions have been made. They've excluded deaf people. They've excluded audiovisual works, which means that distance education programs will not be available for people who are blind. There's already a lot of, they've eliminated language which would have ensured that the exceptions would trump contracts. And so a lot of compromises have already been made, and I think that now that this political decision has been made to go ahead, it's time to stop making any more concessions on the text and fight for the best possible treaty, because this is the one bite at the apple people are going to have. They're not going to have two treaties, they're going to have this treaty, and it better be the best damn treaty they can have.
Thank you, Jamie.